Good evening. My name is Barbara Sweetwine, and I'm going to be presenting my PowerPoint presentation called the Biopsychosocial Model, also known as BPSM. Okay, so I'm going to be summarizing 5 works, 4 of which are written. One is a video called The Need for a New Medical Model, A Challenge for Biomedicine by George Engel. The Need for a Transitional Model, A Challenge for Biopsychosocial Medicine by Joseph Herman. The biopsychosocial model is shrink wrapped on the shelf, ready to be used, but waiting for a new process of care by Joseph Scourger. The biopsychosocial model, Its Use and Abuse by Roberts. I forgot his first name. Okay. So the video is a documentary on YouTube called Stress, A Portrait of a Killer. The biopsychosocial model is a concept or framework that was put on the map by George Engel. The concept encompasses the totality of a human being. Um, it's a holistic concept concerning the medical industry and involving disease and treatment. The biopsychosocial model takes in consideration the biology, psychology, and sociology of a person. So the tricky part is that the current healthcare delivery system, they are not so easily impressed by the biopsychosocial model, and they seem to want to stick to their biomedical approach, which only analyzes the biology of a human being as a patient. The thing about that is there's many scholars and physicians that severely want to push forward the logic and evidence on why the biopsychosocial model is a more comprehensive and more elite of a model and one that should be adopted. So in the first work by George Engel, I think he wrote this in 1989. So it's not too long ago. The basic problem that was posed in his work is that the biomedical model does not allow for a complete analysis of a patient's um, needs for them coming to see a doctor. And without a complete analysis of a patient, you are unable to acquire a proper treatment plan. And so the problem basically is saying like, hey, biomedical model, it just isn't enough. The solution to this problem is the biopsychosocial model. Ingalls says that the physician's basic professional knowledge and skills must span the social and psychological and biological, for his decisions and actions on the patient's behalf involve all three. This quote is saying that since the patient is made up of all these components, biological components, psychological components, and societal components, and that they're all interconnected, the physician needs to analyze every area of the human being if they want to find the most best treatment that will push forward healing and the betterment of the patient. In the next reading by Joseph Herman, the problem that he experiences and states is the difficulties of the biopsychosocial model being adopted. He says that it's difficult to be adopted because it has um, challenges that are naturally ingrained in the model. And those challenges are that it's difficult to teach. This model is difficult to apply when physicians are stressed. The biopsychosocial model is premature. For instance, it doesn't have a nosological glossary, which basically is a reference of terms and like a uh, official foundation to make it easy to navigate. Biopsychosocial model has not matured to that level. However, the solution to these difficulties and challenges that are naturally ingrained in the model is proposed by Herman, that's proposed by Herman is a transitional model. The idea for the idea of the transitional model is for doctors to use current knowledge and abilities of um, this model as another tool in their doctor's bag. He's saying that although this model is premature in its structural application, we should not, as my dad would say, throw the baby out with the bathwater. Use what we know and use its value and don't throw away the value because you can't give it a name. Because after all, a rose is still a rose, no matter what you call it. The next work is by Joseph Scourger. Let's see. So he pinpointed a salient problem in applying the model. He says that the current process does not allow for it. What he's saying is that the way that doctors overall see patients is very rapid and very brief. They can see up to 20 patients a day. In my own personal experience, I've seen physicians see more than 20 patients a day, which does not allow for a complete analysis. The biological, psychological, and social analysis, it doesn't allow for that. The unfortunate part is that there's a huge reluctance to change the rapid doctor-patient relationship due to just the simple fact that doctors make so much money with this delivery system. The problem that Scourger has pinpointed has a solution, and the solution that he proposes is a concierge type service that he calls concierge care for everyone. He describes small clinics with a small population of patients who pay an affordable rate that is sustainable for profit. So the concierge care provides access to communicate easily between doctor and patient through various means, allowing time and attention to provide and apply all the components of the biopsychosocial model. Those means are email, telehealth, um, and being able to actually have time to spend with your doctor during the visit. The next reading by Alex Roberts. Okay, so he is seeing a problem with basically the knowledge that people have about the biopsychosocial model. He's saying that because they don't have accurate knowledge of the biopsychosocial model, it's causing a wayward discourse that spawned from specious claims, um, claiming that the biopsychosocial model is a scientific model. He's saying that the biopsychosocial model is not a scientific model. It is a framework of analysis. Because these people are trying to say that this is a scientific model, they're also saying that it's claiming to know where disease comes from. And Roberts is like, no, I'm trying to tell you that the biopsychosocial model is simply an analysis of interconnected environments that can produce the onset of disease. And we're not claiming that it's a scientific model. We're only saying it is a, what's the exact words he uses? It's a framework of analysis that assist in the discovery in complex interactions. So his solution to this problem of wayward discourse is to simply educate those who are misinterpreting the tenets of the biopsychosocial model. He's saying make corrections on the basics when scholars misinterpret what's going on, and that's his solution. So these problems and solutions have some similarities and they have some contradictions. For instance, George Engel, as the quote unquote father of this model, his problem is the biomedical social model, the biomedical model, and his solution is the model that we're all talking about. And the model that we're all talking about is supported by the rest of the authors, but in different ways. Herman and his transitional model approach, it was not supported by um, Sergers. Sergers felt that a transitional model was unnecessary because he feels that the concierge approach allows for a complete application of the model. So he's like, let's just go full force with this. He says a redesign of the medical delivery system is needed, not a transitional model. Robert's solution stood on its own with the notion that the information and knowledge of the model needs to be clearly understood to avoid false accusation and claims against its value. So Robert's solution, like I said, it stood on its own, but everyone is in agreement with the solution as a whole being biopsychosocial model. Last but not least, in the documentary Stress Portrait of a Killer, it was found that social and psychological environments play a direct role in the acquisition of disease. So basically, this documentary supported the claims of biopsychosocial model being a valuable asset to healing and healthy lifestyles. I wanted to put that the meek shall inherit the earth because there was a part in the documentary where one of the researchers talked about a colony of monkeys that he worked with for about over the course of 30 years. And he was saying how the hierarchy of their particular society demonstrated who had better health and who had poorer health outcomes. Those that were on the higher end of the hierarchy, those are the ones that had the better health because they were dominant, they were like mean, we're talking about monkeys here, so they were just like rude and kind of bullies. And there was an instance where they came across a lot of garbage with food in it. And the ones that were dominant, rude, and bullies took over the leftover food, and they were the ones that got to feast on the rotting meat. Unfortunately, that rotting meat was diseased and caused those dominant, forceful individuals to become infected with the disease, and they eventually died. I know this is a little bit off of the subject, but it was just so important in the documentary, and it was like a bright bulb shining, signifying that you may be on the top of the list of society, but just a side note, let's just be kind to one another because as exampled in that documentary, the meek monkeys inherited their colony. They began to live more kindly with each other. They basically shifted um, the energy and the rhythm of the colony, which then again provided a better environment for everyone to enjoy better health and outcomes, and not just those on the proposed higher end of the hierarchy. Okay, that's the end of my presentation. Looks like it only took almost 15 minutes. Hope you enjoyed it. Please have a wonderful night.